Greetings friends, Jared here with another video from Fanboys Forever, and today I'm so excited that they have finally unveiled the very first official look at the Masters of the Universe Revelation series. Now this will be a new Netflix series. It's going to be an anime series, quite obviously, especially from the style we're seeing here in some of these pictures. It's going to be ran by Kevin Smith, who helped write the show, and I'm very, very excited about this, particularly because this is the first major new iteration in media for Masters of the Universe since the 2000X series. So it has been a really, really long time coming, especially when you consider that it's been a good solid 20 years since we've had a really brand new version of Masters that's kind of out there in the ether. So I'm really pumped about this. And what we're here to do today is look at the brand new official stills that they released from the show and just sort of react and talk about what I think and what I'm seeing from some of the style here. So let's get right into it. First off, and this is all from Entertainment Weekly, we have this really awesome look at He-Man riding Battle Cap. This looks like it is in the Eternium Palace, perhaps. I don't think it's in Castle Grayskull, but you never know. And I just love how beastly the Battle Cat looks here. It looks fantastic. And I think a lot of people were sort of concerned, and I was a little bit too, that maybe the characters would be kind of slimmed down and slender. That is not the case. As we can see here, He-Man is absolutely bulked to the max, and he's as big as he's been in anything. He's bigger than he was in Filmation. So I don't see that as a problem. Clearly that was just us, I guess, being a little concerned about some early images of toys we were seeing. I really like that He-Man has the classic H logo on the chest harness, and that's not something that I think a lot of people will be particularly happy about, but I really like it. It's just the Battle Armor He-Man logo, or the Thunder Punch He-Man logo, and it's put on the armor. I know that, a lot of people say, well, okay, it's a PC thing because he can't have the Iron Cross or whatever. But I don't know, if this is, kind of later on in the timeline, then perhaps He-Man has used the battle armor and the Thunder Punch stuff, and this is more of like an evolution of his regular get-up. And the Classics line and the original mini-comics, I think it's called the Power Vest that Adam wears, that kind of gives him extra protection as He-Man. So I've always liked that concept, and I think it looks really cool here. So that looks terrific. And this, man, I'm telling you, this really sells the bulk and just the new look of He-Man. It's as cool an animation style as I ever could have hoped for with a new He-Man property. I mean, I'll just be honest, it's perfect. I just, and I'm not going to feel this way about every single thing we see today, but just the He-Man character model itself, when I look at He-Man, there's nothing I would change about this shot right here. Of course, it'll be interesting to see it in motion, and maybe we might have some more opinions and more feelings about it when we see that. But oh my goodness, like, this is absolutely spectacular. And I'm impressed by little detail things that I know that this animation studio is capable of pulling off. Like, look at all the little segments in He-Man's power vest and the rivets, and the little designs on the gauntlets. Like, this is not low detail animation models right here. This is very intense, highly detailed anime stuff, and from what we've seen with their Castlevania series, we know how capable they are pulling this off. So I'm excited. This looks absolutely terrific, and the backgrounds are no slouch either. Those are very detailed. Here we have He-Man and Skeletor, and they're in combat, and this is probably the biggest seller for just how huge He-Man is in this show. He is gigantic. He is as big as you can imagine. This also should give you an idea of why the new figures' heads are kind of small, which we're going to look at some of those official images in another video. Because you can see clearly here that the animation kind of requires it to be so, to be animation accurate. I'm liking this. I'm liking the extreme amount of detail in both characters. This is also the first picture that, while we're looking at these anyway, that we've seen of Skeletor so far. And he looks great. I really love how you have the little kind of shoulder pad spikes up there that are overlaid over top of Skeletor's cloak. So it's like a really cool amalgamation of the 2000X Skeletor with the classic Skeletor. And what I like is that he's still really big and bulky, which is something that I kind of missed on the old 2000X designs. And that's something I'm surprised about, that they actually kept with a kind of steroidal, huge muscle man looks, which I love because it's like the original toys. Here we have something I did not expect, which is an incredibly classical Sorceress. Did not think we would get something that was this accurate to the whole designs, the Filmation design, the old toy. There's some differences. There's definitely more of a feathery look around the collar up there and more orange up there. But honestly, that's as classic as it gets. I don't really think there's much else you could do. I like the cool effects. The lighting is fantastic in this show. You know, so often I hate the flat look of modern animation where a lot of times there's not very much shadow. It's very just kind of there. It's very flat. This is very three-dimensional looking. You have so much shadow work going into just every aspect on all of He-Man's muscles and his anatomy, and the same for the Sorceress with all of kind of the shadow working its way around. Even the shimmer on He-Man's gold, on the belt, on the gauntlet, on the power vest, it all works, and I think it looks spectacular. This does look like it's in Castle Grayskull, which obviously the Sorceress is there, and you can see the green bricks. Next up, we actually have a close-up look at Skeletor, who will actually be portrayed by Mark Hamill in the series. And what I like is that they have actually gone out of their way to create a very detailed rendition of the kind of back crest that's on Skeletor's collar. So I think that looks great. I also like that Skeletor, the skull, looks more gnarly than we've seen it before. And it almost looks, I don't know, like a really crazy looking tattoo or something, like that kind of style of skull. The line work looks really nice, and I'm liking the little purple effects, Skeletor's energy there. And it looks fantastic, and we have that same background we've been seeing. So there must be a major confrontation, I'm guessing, near the in the beginning of the show. Next up, we have Prince Adam, and this is, you know, this is very much the outfit is very much what you would expect. I would assume this is the transformation sequence when he becomes He-Man. Of course, you know, I'm no detective, but he is raising aloft the sword of power, so I do know that he's probably about to become He-Man. We got some rainbow energy kind of emanating there. You know, it's very he looks very young. But I do like that they're taking the 2000X approach of saying that Prince Adam is a tiny little guy, and he's very young, and he's not just He-Man walking around wearing a pink vest. And that's what they had to do in Filmation, and that was done for like cost considerations and also several other considerations. Their original intention was indeed, in the old Filmation cartoon, that Prince Adam would be this little guy that turns into big old He-Man. So I'm glad that they're sticking with that. You know, I think that the concern will be, oh, Prince Adam, he looks like a woman, he looks like a girl here, but you know, I think he's supposed to be very young. I feel that maybe the idea is he's supposed to be maybe 17 or 18 but I don't know. We'll see what they do, but he does look very small. I like the design though; it's very accurate to the old original toy without being too ridiculously pink, I guess. Here we have a very classical Teela. It looks like this is also happening maybe within, I don't know, it's hard to say. Maybe within a part of Castle Grayskull. Hard to say. But this is a very classic Teela design. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy, she plays Teela. So I'm very excited about that. I really like this. It's like a plussed up version of the original Teela toy. She even has the hairdo that's very accurate to Filmation. It looks good. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm not as blown away by it as the He-Man design, but I really do think it's right on the money. I am impressed by the hairstyle, but we'll see that this isn't the only look for Teela we get, and I have a lot more to say about the other look. Here we have Moss Man, who must be a fairly large part of this premiere or something, because he is one of the only characters to get an action figure in the first wave. And Alan Oppenheimer, the original voice of Skeletor, confusingly, plays Moss Man in this show. So I'm curious to hear what that's like. Oppenheimer is a really cool guy, and it always warms my heart to see him at these convention appearances and things and these videos I watch. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he brings to Moss Man. I know that there's some folks that are pretty disappointed that he won't be back as Skeletor, but guys, you got to cut Oppenheimer a break. He is a much older gentleman these days. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to maintain that Skeletor pitch for like an entire series. And so I think we need to cut Oppenheimer a break, and I think it's great that they were able to get him in the show, and I'm sure that he appreciates it as well. But this design is fantastic. there's so much detail here. I can't imagine what it would take to animate this and see it move around. Even the lighting behind the head, you can see the little subtle blue back there. It just looks great. There's so much detail. It's like little trees all over them. And man, like I said, I can't wait to see this thing moving in motion, but I don't really even know how you'd do it. Next up, we have Beastman. Now, he's going to be played by KMR himself. That's Kevin Michael Richardson. And he is, of course, a classic voice actor. KMR, he is in practically everything. I can't wait to hear what he does with Beastman. This definitely reminds me of like the Lords of Power look that we saw in like the PowerCon box set. He has these big like tusks, which I think is awesome. And is that a Kevin Smith reference? If you know, you know. I also really like the gigantic versions of the spikes that are coming out of his mane of fur. I think that looks terrific. And I love how the blue has been maintained around the eyes. And they've given Beastman definitely even more of a beard than we usually see him with. I also like that the orange is more of a burnt orange and not just like an orange crayon or something. So I think this looks great. The yellow eyes also really work super well. Next up, we have this, and this appears to be maybe like some time has passed since the stuff we've just seen. I think the idea of the show, or from what I'm seeing, is that there is a big event, something goes horribly wrong, and then there's maybe a passage of time or something, and then the show kind of follows Teela for a while. I'm not really sure, but it's interesting. This is our first look at many of these characters. What I assume is Orko in the background. I can only assume that's Orko. I really like the design. It is very much the 2000X look kind of for Orko, mixed with, I don't know, something else. But it is definitely very much in that vein, where Orko is more kind of spindly, a little bit more wiry. And then we have Lieutenant Andra, which from what I understand, I really don't know much about this character. I think she's from some of the British Masters comics, like some of the Star comics. I know there was a character called Andra, and I don't believe she was African-American in those comics. I think they may have switched that around a little bit, but she was a very minor character, I think. And I think they've kind of given her a bigger role here. I think she is someone that Teela has a past with, as a part of the Royal Guard, perhaps. We have the new revised version of Teela right there, and I think this looks interesting, but I'm honestly not very crazy over this design, this look. I see what they're going for. I think it's sort of an homage with her armor there to how you could put on the brown kind of snake armor, but I don't know. There's something about it that seems a little plain to me, a little too... I think the hair is throwing me off quite a bit. I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me, to be honest with you. I also don't like that apparently Roboto back there is wearing some kind of tarp over his chest. That seems to be more for convenience of the animators, so they don't have to animate Roboto. Yeah, it's a little strange that a robot would be wearing like an article of clothing. And then we have the kind of controversial design for Evil-Lyn, and personally, out of this whole picture, I think Evil-Lyn is the best thing in this picture, because I actually think she's instantly recognizable. She definitely has the look of Evil-Lyn that we all know and love. The only thing that's different is, of course, she doesn't have gray or yellow skin. It is just flesh tone. I'm liking the blue eyeshadow. I think that's a cool look. The outfit is much less outrageous. There's some fur on it, which I do think the idea is maybe it's a little colder. I think in the background I can sort of see some snowy mountains, so maybe that's the idea there. Yeah, I think Lena Headey, I think that's how you pronounce her name, from Game of Thrones. I do believe that she is portraying Evil-Lyn, so that is very cool. I think she'll do a fantastic job if she brings that same tone of voice like she brought to Game of Thrones. You can also, if you look closely, you can see Evil-Lyn's staff, but I think she's a great design. Like I said, it's the others that worry me a little bit here. I think it kind of veers a little too far off. But maybe Roboto throws the tarp off. This is just one scene, and maybe he has a very classical look underneath. Certainly, from what I can see of the legs, it's a classical look. And that is it for the pictures, the early look. I have to say that overall, I do think these look fantastic. I am still slightly concerned that maybe a lot of the cool stuff happens right at the beginning of it, and then a major event occurs, and then we're kind of thrust into the future where things aren't quite as classical, things aren't quite as, fan servicey, and I'm a little concerned with what happens there. But I do think for now, just going by early appearances, I do think that this looks really good. I'm certainly not going to jump to conclusions and say just because the designs are good that the writing will be any good, that we'll accept what they do with the continuity. I hope that Kevin Smith has been very wise about how he approached this, and I hope that they're not going to make any major missteps with the continuity, with the characters. We've been burned before on this stuff, but we just hope that they have made some good calls here. All I can say is if we're just going purely by visuals, purely by the way He-Man looks, purely by the way Skeletor and Battle Cat and all of those look, then we're probably in for something pretty neat. And I'm really looking forward to it. I do believe that they said that this would be premiering in July. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Of course, stick around. We are going to be looking at some of the toys as well. And of course, we'll be doing a video about that. So I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. If these pictures are anything to go by, we might be in for a real treat. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Of course, subscribe so you don't miss all my coverage of all the brand new Masters of the Universe Revelation stuff. But I'm also doing coverage of all the Masters of the Universe Origins stuff as well, so I can't wait to share that with you too. All right, guys, until next time, God bless you and yours. Take care.